So hello and welcome back to another episode of Scenes 4. Today I'm going to be asking AI to test my knowledge on this, my R107 SL, and find out how much I know about this generation of SL. So how is it going to work today? Well, I'm going to be asking Google Gemini to come up with a list of 10 questions, but not the answers, to the R107 SL, and then I'm going to be going for those questions, answering the best I can. I've no clue what it's going to ask me. I've got no paper or anything around me or any books or anything. I'm not going to be using Google to answer any of the questions, or what I know about the SL. The whole point is to test my knowledge on this today. I'm then going to be asking Google Gemini to give the answers to the questions, and we'll go through and we'll see how many I got right and how close I was to some of the answers. Now, you can also play on going and putting the questions up on the screen for each one, and then also go for the answer at the end. And let me know in the comments below how well you did. So let's ask Google Gemini to give me 10 questions on the R107 SL. Right, so here we go then. In Google Gemini, I've put, please list 10 questions on the Mercedes R107 SL. Let's press enter and let's see what we get. It's just working away. Okay, and here we go. We have 10 questions here, all about the R107 SL. So let's go through and let's see how many I can get right. What years was the Mercedes 107 SL produced, and why was its production so long? That's technically 2 questions in one there, slightly cheated, but we'll go with this. So it was produced from 1971 to 1989. Production was so long, but I think a couple of reasons. We'll see if this ties up with what it believes. But I think it was really popular. It was still selling well. Even models like this in the mid-80s were still selling really well. And also at the time, the 129 fitted into that period where Mercedes were really over-engineering all of their cars. So again, they were putting a lot more time and effort into the development of that model, and that's why it came out a little bit later than they probably expected. So what were the different engine options for the R107 SL throughout its production, and what were the most popular? Again, there's 2 questions there, sort of. There's going to be 20 questions at this rate. So engines that were available were the 280, 300, 350, 380, 420, 500, 560. And what were the most popular engines? That's a tricky one. So it was, top one was the 450, second one was the 380. Oh, I read this recently, that's going to annoy me. I think we'll go with 500. I think we'll go with the 500. I'm not too sure about that one. That'll be something we can learn. Oh, who was the chief designer of the R107 SL? And how did its design depart from its predecessor, the Pagoda W113 SL? Oh, who was the designer? Wasn't Sacco, is it Barack, the bloke before? I'm trying to think of his name. What's his name? I think it was him. I can't think of his name. Not very helpful on this. And how did its design depart from its predecessor, Pagoda? Well, obviously, it's a totally different style car. I believe this was the first of this sort of generation of SL, of Mercedes, that were produced with these headlights, the big grille, the sort of rear lights with the slats in. I think the 116 and the 123 sort of followed on from this design. The SL itself was obviously looked quite low and wide and long. It was where it was made to look like a big car. So I'm not too sure what it means 100% on that, but hopefully that's sort of what it was. How did the R107 SL design and engineering prioritise safety, and what features were included for this purpose? Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? I have got a book that my partner bought me all about the 107 SL, and I'm going to learn a lot more about this. And this is going to be good actually to sort of test my knowledge on what I need to know more. So obviously the SL is quite a big car. It's very well built. I believe there are things like crumple zones. I believe there was doing things like ABS, which admittedly wasn't on the early cars that would have come. This car comes with ABS. I'm not sure if it was standard on this car or it was optional, I'm not too sure. But yes, I believe they were very much doing a lot more crash protection, a lot more crash testing as well when these were coming out in sort of like these, but in the late 60s, early 70s. So question 5, how many R107 SLs were produced and which geographic market accounted for the majority of sales? Well, I think there was about 232,000. I should know this, I read this yesterday, believe it or not. We do my website, the Stevens Ford's website, and there's a bit of information about SLs actually on there, and I did actually read this. Yes, about 232,000 I'm going to go for. I don't know the exact amount. And I think 170 odd thousand actually went to the US, so it accounted for a lot of those sales. So question 6, what were the key differences between the R107 SL and the C107 SLC model? So this is an R107 SL. The difference is between that and the SLC is they also actually got a longer wheelbase. I think they put a bit of extra, I'm not too sure, it's like 17 inches or something in the wheelbase, obviously a bit between two wheels. And also, obviously, this one is a convertible, whereas the SLC had a fixed coupe, it was a fixed coupe roof. Number 7, what are some of the most common mechanical or rust related issues to look out for when buying a Mercedes R107 SL? Well, we'll start with rust. Obviously, they do like to rust. The bulkheads do go quite famously, I know, for going. This one has had a new one and a paint job about 10 years ago, and it's still looking alright, but yes, they are quite prone to rust just generally, I think. But it's areas like the bulkhead that I know particularly rust issues that I always ask you to check when you're buying one. What are the common mechanical issues? Well, again, these cars were quite bulk tough, but there are some. I know on this 380 SL, some of the timing chains, I think on the earlier cars, they say to watch out for. I think because it had a double or a single. I think one had a double and then like one a single or the other way around. I can't quite remember. I just know I don't need to worry about it with this car. But yeah, not all of them are sound. I'm not too sure on every mechanical issue, every single engine across the range. But obviously these cars now are getting quite old. I mean, the actual, I think 1971 is well over 50 years now. So these cars are getting quite old. So you need to make sure it's obviously been well maintained and might have been rebought at some point. So again, just doing your own checks if you're buying one really, and just seeing how well the engine looks after, how well the car generally looks after. So question number 8. What are some of the notable standard and optional features on the R107 SL, such as ABS or a removable hardtop? Well, we'll talk about the optional extras on this particular car because I did a whole range of colours and different things, and all the colours changed. And this colour on this car came out in 1984, went to 1989. This particular one, I'm not too sure if the ABS came as standard. I believe the later ones came as standard. I think from the 85 facelift I think ABS came as standard, I believe. But optional for this one, obviously got the metallic paint, got the sombrero alloys, it's got the hard top, as you can see over there, I've got it on. It's got the full leather, it's got the rear seats, and it's also got the external temperature gauge built into the middle vent. Instead of a free vent, the middle vent actually converted into a dials. I think we'll just go with that one because there's so many options, so many different things you could do over the 18-year production life. It's quite hard to list them all. So we'll just go on this car. So number 9, how did the R107, how did the R107 SL evolve in terms of performance and features from its early years to its final models? Oof. Well, obviously, none of the engines that originally came in the early SLs made it through to the end of the production. They had 280s, 6-cylinder, they had the 350 and the 450. None of those made it through. In the 1980 facelift, they did I think they still did the 280, they did the 380 and they did a 500. I believe they also did a 450 5 litres as well, didn't they, in some of them sort of 70s models. And then they did the 85 facelift. This is a very late sort of 1980 facelift car. And that had the 300, the 420, the 500 and the 560. And the 560 was only available in the US. In what ways did the R107 SL become a cultural icon during its time, and in what movies or TV show did it notably appear? I'm glad to ask me this question. I do know quite a bit about this. I have a poster upstairs of the Beverly Hill Cop movie, the first one. And Eddie Murphy can be seen in an R107 SL there. Things like Heart to Heart. There were a few other TV occasionally, I think, is it American Gigolo, which had one in there. My personal favourite, of course, is Patrick Duffy, who played Bobby Ewing in Dallas. He had one for quite a few years. He actually did little nerdy facts here for you. He had a 450, which was a dark red one originally. It wasn't actually the bright red car in the first season. He had like a darker red. And then it had a 450, I think, for another couple of seasons. Then obviously did the facelift in 1980, and then he actually had a 380, because the 380 was, I think, one of the only models sold from 80 to 85 because of various American legislation. He had that till he got run over in one of the season finales. Then it went off, he died, his character died, he didn't die. His character died, and then he came back and he had a 560. Interestingly enough, that had a light coloured interior, whereas the SL4 were bright red with a dark interior. He came back, and magically the interior of his car had changed. Anyway, that's the ones I know of anyway. Right, so that is our 10 questions over and done with. So I'm going to ask Google Gemini now to go and give the answers to these questions. So I've asked it to please give the answer to these questions. Right, okay. And we'll just pick out the sort of key things here. So question 1. What years was the Mercedes SL produced, and why was it production so long? So the SL was produced from 1971 to 1989. That was 18-year production life. Yep, we knew that. Its longevity was due to the immense and sustained popularity, particularly in the United States, which is the biggest market. Yeah, I quite agree with that. We said I think it was the late one, wasn't 170,000 odd cars went there. The car's timeless design, robust engineering, and continuous updates ensured it remained a desirable and competitive luxury vehicle for almost 2 decades. Yes, I quite agree. I didn't pick up on the fact that the 129 was over-engineered. Maybe that was taking a bit longer to produce. Maybe I'm just talking rubbish on that. That wouldn't be the first time I've spoken rubbish on the channel. So question 2, what were the different engine options available for the R107 SL first production? Which were most popular? So it says early ones were the 350, the 450, the 280 SL. Later ones include the 380, the 420, and the 500. So it doesn't tell us which one's the most popular, but it does say that the 450 and 560 SL were the most popular, especially in the US, which accounted for 2/3 of all R107 sales. I suppose that gives the answer, really. So question 3, who was the chief designer on the R107 SL, and how did its design depart from its predecessor? And I'll be honest, I got that completely at the wrong, that one. It does say a bit about the styling. The R107 adopted more contemporary, squared off, angular aesthetic, reflecting a shift to a more robust and modern look. It was also a heavier and more luxurious car, moving away from the super light ethos. So question 4, how did the SL's design and engineering prioritise safety, and what features were included for this purpose? Well, safety was the major focus of the R107. Some of the safety features include a reinforced A-pillar, which acts as a rollover bar. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Apparently that A-pillar is meant to actually withstand a rollover, apparently. I don't want to test it, to be honest. Stronger passenger cell, crumple zones, ABS, and a driver's airbag was optional or standard equipment. So that means at some point it became standard, probably in some of the later cars, I'd imagine. Yeah, so maybe it was an option on this car, I'm not 100% sure. Question number 5, how many R107s were produced, and which geographic market accounted for the majority of sales? So a total of 237, 287 SLs were produced. The United States was by far the largest market, accounting for an estimated 2/3 of all sales. Well, yes, the US was the sort of designed market almost. It intended to be a success in the US, this car. So what are the key differences between the SL and the SLC? So the R107 has a 2-seat sports car with removable hardtop. The SLC is a 4-seat coupe, built on lengthened platform. So yes, I was right about the platform being lengthened. I forgot, because this one has got 4 seats, obviously the SLC had 4 seats permanently, whereas the SL I think came as a 2-seat majority of the time, and you could option the little back seats if you wanted. And I probably forgot to mention that bit. So, what are some of the most common mechanical or rust-related issues to look out for when buying an R107 SL? Common issues include rust, wheel arches, floor pans, behind the bumpers. Interestingly, doesn't mention about the bulkhead, which I always thought was quite a big issue. Timing chain issues, fuel injection system, cooling system, vacuum operated central locking is a known point of failure. Yes, I know all about that. I don't have central locking on this car because it just doesn't work. And the SL had a quick look at it for me, and they said there was parts missing, so they're going to have to go through. And I'm like, I'm okay just opening everything up separately with its own key. Question 8. What are some of the notable standard and optional extra safety features on the R107 SL, such as ABS removable hardtop, ABS, airbags, drivers, side airbag became standard in later US model cars. Okay, good to know. Automatic climate control, cruise control, power windows, heated seats. There goes a few more than I knew there. How did the R107 evolve in terms of performance and features from its early years to its final model? So early models focus on a luxury touring experience with comfortable suspension and less emphasis on outright performance. Over time, the car became more powerful and refined. The engine became larger with the introduction of the 5.6 litre V8. That's spelled the American way, by the way, litre. And later models received a more robust and galvanised body shell, a wider track, and updated suspension and braking systems. The final facelift in 1986 significantly improved the handling and performance. There you go. Finally, last one. In what way did the R107 SL become a cultural icon during this time? In what movies or TV show did it become notable? So the SL became an icon of 1980s luxury, embodying a sense of casual elegance and success. I can't say elegance without doing a slightly posh voice, I'm afraid. So it appeared such shows such as Dallas, I mentioned, Heart to Heart, I mentioned that one, American Gigolo, where Richard Gere's character drove a black 450S. So I feel like I've learned quite a bit from there, actually. I think there's a few things I'd slightly question about AI on that one. I think the bulkhead didn't mention. But yes, overall, I think I did okay. I'm not too sure how many I got right. I think I got most of them. I think the only one I got completely wrong was the designer. So I think there's a little more research, a little more homework I can do on the R107 to improve my knowledge on that. But let me know how you did in the comments below. So that brings our video for today to an end. It's going to be goodbye from me, goodbye from the SL, goodbye from little buddy here, and we'll see you again very soon. Goodbye.